Here to go live. Okay. Yeah, I want to say we're live. Can you just double check for me?
Yeah, hang on. Let me,
Okay. Alrighty. And then, yes, okay. And I'm well aware. Right now I am using the Fire Emblem sit tight stream screen. I haven't made a special one for D&D stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of, it says we're live right now.
Oh,
and,
cool.
Yeah, Brian just confirmed we are live.
All right. Okay. If you can send me the link real quick, so I can send out the link, so I can be professionals.
Beep bop.
Beep boop.
What's a character sheet? We will gladly tell you.
Okay, hang on. Let me make my tweets.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sophis as a D&D character. You know what? What would she be as a character class?
That's a good question. My first guess is Sorcerer. That's my first guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sorcerer as well, but what's to say she has to be a playable character? She could just be like a warlock, a warlock patron. Yeah, she'd make a great warlock patron.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can. Yeah, that actually would make a lot.
Pact of the Blade. She would be a Pact of the Blade.
Alrighty.
So obvious.
Okay. So anywho, I see that we are live. So just wanted to make sure. So okay. As you can see, I'm fucking bored. And I did promise that we are going to be doing some D&D onto this channel relatively soon. And I figured, you know what? Why not just showcase how do you make a character sheet? Because it's, without a doubt, the most important task, but it's also the most daunting, especially for new players. And I have got Jordan with me, our resident D&D expert, so he can easily go into a lot more detail on some stuff than I ever could.
Yeah, even then, I'm not even halfway that great at it, but that's the beauty of D&D. You don't have to be an expert of everything, although some of your players may occasionally give you shit for things that they know that you don't.
Right.
But again, there's no specific rules, only a few things.
Alrighty. So, with that said, I will now officially transition over into the screen. So, don't mind the layout right now. Yes, it is Knights themed. I did say that I am going to bring a Knights focused D&D mini campaign again relatively soon. I've just got that in the process kind of setting up right now, so don't mind any of that. As for what you're looking at right now, so this is basically what the character sheet looks like. There's multiple ways about getting a character sheet. I know when you get the player's handbook, which is a must if you're going to play Dungeons and Dragons, it usually comes with a copy. I think you could technically go to Wizards of the Coast or something and get more character sheets from them. You can use
go to 5e tools and get everything.
Yeah, that's you can use there are sites like D&D Beyond that allow you to make a character sheet, and it's all on their database. But what I like to use, and I forgot who it was in our Abode campaign that provided this, but yeah, somebody actually painstakingly converted the character sheets into a Google Doc. And they not only made it look exactly like how a character sheet normally does, but they also programmed it so that whatever numbers you put in, it can do the math for you. So that's the one that I'm going to show. I'm going to show off in this is the Google Doc version.
Yeah.
Okay. So that being said, I know everybody's kind of got their own way of handling a character sheet. Everybody's got their own preferences. I'm just showing my approach. And usually one of the first approaches I do is I usually try to decide okay, what class am I going to play? That's usually the very first thing I think about is what class am I going to play? what race could complement it. You know, pretty much everything that's in this corner here where it says class, background, alignment, race, all that other fun shit. Like, I at least try to get some of those basics first. That's how I like to approach it. Like Jordan, like, I don't know if that's something you like to do or not.
Yeah, I'm always character first, everything else afterwards. So the most basic way to break it down for me is to think class, race, and then a name. Things like alignment, background, and all those things will come as you're developing your character.
Yeah.
And that's why the player's handbook is so useful, and supplements that add to what's already there is so useful for, because they give you different suggestions, and depending on what you pick, it can give you specific perks that you would otherwise wouldn't have if you were just playing a, let's say, lawful good paladin human.
Yeah.
There's multiple ways to customize your characters.
Alrighty. So what I'm gonna do is for this sheet, so I guess we kind of call it maybe like a little bit of a sneak preview for a character in a campaign that I'm developing. Not the Knights one, because that's something going to be totally different, but a long-term campaign. So mostly this is going to be like an NPC, but with the possibility that he may, like, for like one part or something, end up like tagging along with the players. That's why I'm making a sheet for him.
Actually, I have a confession to make. I'm going to make a sheet along with you.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, because it's been a while since we played D&D specifically, and I think this would be a good way to jog my memory as well.
Okay. Alrighty. So figured this would be a fun little exercise, and like I said, it's an opportunity to like give a little bit of a sneak peek as to what I've got planned. So for this character's name, I've already decided what this character's name is going to be. And his name is going to be Dior Helviarn. And as for this other stuff, like I've had this guy in my head, so I already know what he's essentially going to be. He's going to come in a little bit later, so I'm thinking probably maybe around level 3. So Jordan, this should make you happy, because for his class, I've decided he's going to be a ranger.
Yay, ranger!
Yeah, so
best class.
Yeah, Jordan absolutely loves rangers. Like, to kind of give a brief rundown as to other classes. So, Artificer. If you want to bring Magitech into your fantasy series, like you just want to like go onto the field with a fucking magic hand cannon, play an Artificer. Bards. They pretty much they are entertainers. Not just strictly music. You could do like dancing, storytelling, poetry, whatever, any form of entertainment. And that is essentially the focus of their power, that you can use them to support the party, to completely debilitate enemies. Bards are actually a lot of fun. Clerics, they're your heal bots. Different types of heal bots, of course, but they're basically your heal bots. Druids, nature magic, the ability to shapeshift into animals. So, yeah, animorphs, basically.
Yeah.
Fighters. you don't. They're pretty
exactly as it says on the tin. They're good at fighting.
Yeah, they're pretty self-explanatory.
They are largely considered to be one of the easiest classes to play. Although, if you want my opinion, I think monk is just a tad more user-friendly than fighters are.
Okay, but that's like what you call it? Barbarians. Barbarian, get pissed, kill shit. But fortunately, it's like, barbarians, you don't ever have to worry about. They don't cast magic, so there's math and shit that is just completely taken out of the equation. So it's like, just get pissed, hulk up, and kill shit. That's another relatively easy class for the most part.
While I'm doing this, I just made a half-orc cleric named Artek.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's what I'll be running off of.
Okay. We have monks. Fist fighters, pretty much. So, basically, like, yeah, if you want to go play Tifa from Final Fantasy VII, you can, monk is that class. They also have the ability to basically shoot out, like, Kamehamehas or Hadoukens. You can even play them up like Avatar The Last Airbender, and they can just, like, wield all the elements. So, lots of versatility with the monk. Paladin. These are basically your damage sponges. It's kind of like a cross between a fighter and a cleric. Paladins can heal, but they can take a lot of damage. And while they can use magic, it's actually far more preferable for them to use their magic to actually smite enemies. So instead of casting magic, you can be like, I feel like, doing some extra radiant damage against an enemy and just completely obliterate them. Paladins are awesome.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Paladins are rather interesting in that they do have an ability called Lay on Hands, which is a decent way to heal your party. But if you want to go like fully defensive and supportive, you can do that, or you can just pick, say, Oath of Vengeance and completely smite all your enemies.
Yeah, it's like what you call it? So Rangers. So getting into the Ranger class, these are basically like your hunters, trackers, scouts. Ranger tragically kind of has a reputation of just being like, if you're just following the Ranger archetypes in the player's handbook, they're not very good. They're not very good because, basically it's like, oh, if you're, you can be a hunter and it's like, oh, it's all more about stalking and shit, but rogues are the masters of stalking. Beastmaster
is just bad.
Yeah, and Beastmaster is like, oh, you can have a little animal with you and stuff. And it's like, again, druids can do shit similar to that and better. So if you want to play a ranger, this is where the supplementary material is going to come into play. Specifically, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, because that comes with more like subclasses or different archetypes. And the stuff that they did with ranger in that book was really good. Rogue, as I said, pretty much like these are your thieves, assassins. They're very stealth-based. There are some that, I think it's like Arcane Trickster. It's basically, you can essentially cast a little bit of magic. But, yeah, you're all about just being a sneaky bastard. Sorcerers. Sorcerers, the biggest difference between a sorcerer and a wizard, to my understanding, is that sorcerers, they are supposed to be born, they're naturally born with the ability to cast magic. They may not be able to control it very well, but, they have that ability. And one of the archetypes that you can do is, again, what is called wild magic, which is if you like your RNG and you want to be at the mercy of the dice and just release all kinds of chaos, a wild magic sorcerer is going to be your bet. I mean, it's literally like the most random shit can happen because you do not have control. But, I honestly don't have a whole lot of experience playing sorcerer. Warlocks. Warlocks are pretty cool. These are people that are basically, they've pledged themselves to some kind of a patron. Like, it's like, basically, I made a deal with the devil kind of thing. So it's like, I made a deal with the devil to give me power and all the crazy shit that comes with it. There's all kinds of customization that comes with warlocks. So that warlocks can be a lot of fun. Like, you can pledge your loyalty to devils, to fairies, to celestial beings. You can have a goddamn living weapon and be bound to that. So there's a lot of cool shit that warlocks can do. And then lastly, of course, there's the wizards, which, again, spell slinging stuff, but whereas the sorcerers, like I said, they naturally are born with magic. Wizards, yeah, they gotta actually study to do this shit. And wizards are entirely built on just amassing like this massive arsenal of magic spells. Like, you can copy spells from any books that you see. If there's like an enemy that has like a book with a spell that you don't have, I'm copying that and now it's mine. So it's like, yeah, wizards can be pretty good, again, and there's all different kinds of magic. So there's all different kinds of ways you can customize a wizard. So that's pretty much the rundown for classes. Races, I am not going to break down races because there's far too many of them. There's
the basic thing you need to know is that races come with their own racial traits and stat buffs as you're creating them. Basically, think of character traits as extra abilities that your character knows naturally.
Yeah. So it's like, and again, there's tons of freaking races. Like, the player's handbook provides a bunch, but then you've got multiple books of like supplementary material that include, here's some more races with some more benefits and unique stuff. So, there's a wide variety. So again, I'm not going to go too much into it. But as for our boy Dior here, I've decided that he is going to be an elf. But again, some races, there's different kinds. Like elves are one of them. If you think like you can be a forest, you can basically be a wood elf, which is like, the elf that lives in the forest. There's high elves, which I guess the closest you would think of would be like, the elves like in Lord of the Rings, where it's like, they're living in like, these like glorious elven cities and shit. Like, those are your high elves. There's another kind of elf that, can be playable, but in a lot of campaigns, they try to encourage them to be used more so as bad guys, and those are drow elves. And those are basically dark elves. And that's what Dior is going to be. He's going to be a drow elf.
And again, in my case, Artek is a half-orc, and he's a cleric. And I decided, why don't we try one of the new subclasses for one of the new domains for clerics, an order domain cleric.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, so then background. Again, there's a lot of backgrounds to choose from. The whole point of a background, once again, it just gives you some more perks for your character. And it's, there's backgrounds for, okay, you're an acolyte that is, loyal to a particular church. Or maybe there's a background for being a pirate. There's a background for just being somebody that just lives out in the wilderness on their own. There's a background for being a merchant. All that other stuff. For Dior, he's actually going to come from a noble background. And then as for alignment, I'm sure at some point you've all come across the D&D alignment charts where it's like good, neutral, evil, lawful, neutral, chaotic. I'm sure you've all at some point come into the alignment. And again, alignment, I'm actually not going to worry about alignment right now because I haven't fully decided yet what his alignment's going to be. But, I got plenty of time to do that and, all that other fun stuff. So, again, all on the top here, this is kind of just to give me an idea, like, okay, I know I want to play a ranger. I know I want him to be a drow elf. I know I want him to come from, noble society and such. So, now that I've at least gotten that stuff down, the very first thing that I like to do, roll my stats. So your stats are, like what you can see here, like in this far corner, you have strength that obviously determines physical strength. Dexterity determines like how quick you are, finesse weapons, that kind of stuff. Constitution, health. Intelligence. Intelligence pretty much is like how well you recall information. So like any information on history, on religion, on nature, it's how do you recall information. Wisdom is basically street smarts. How well do you read the room around you? How aware are you of your surroundings? And charisma is more or less, how do you interact with people? Are you the kind of person that just you're a flirt? You have a way with words that you can just get people on your side? Or are you the kind of person that when he walks into a room, his presence is so intimidating that people will do what that person wants out of fear? That's all charisma. So each class benefits from different stats and such, but usually the first thing I do is roll stats. The way you determine your stats, there's two ways. The book provides a set of numbers that you can use, and you can just plop them wherever you want. Or, what I like to do, I like to roll for my stats.
And this is what I'll do as well.
Yeah, so to roll stats, you're going to take what is known as a D6. It is the perfect cube, like 6-sided perfect cube dice. You're going to basically, if you only have one set, roll it 4 times, or I have 4 sets of dice. Basically, you're going to roll 4 numbers. Whatever the lowest number is, you take the lowest number out of the equation. You then add the remaining 3, and that is a number for a base stat. So, for example, yes.
One of the first things I rolled, I got an 18.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, so doing it this way, the highest number you can get is you roll straight 6s, you get an 18. That's the highest number you're able to roll. And naturally, the lowest is 3. So, and yeah. So, for example, I just rolled an 11. And here, let me let me write that number for right now. And because there's 6 stats, you're going to want to do this 6 times.
And this is a good idea, is to keep a scratch pad on you so you can remember what to buff and what to take away once you get racial traits into the equation. So I got, let's see. Bear with me because I'm really bad at math, so...
Oh no, that's like...
I need to do this 4 more times. Okay, that's a 10.
Okay. All right. So the numbers that I rolled... Yeah, so the numbers that I rolled was 11, 16, 12, 13, 16, and 12.
Yeah. 17. Okay, that's better. One more. And... Okay, so I rolled 18, 17, 2 12s, a 10, and an 8.
Okay, not bad.
So, yeah, a pretty substantial spread.
Yeah. It's like, I personally like the rolling because, the numbers that the book gives you, it gives you like a pretty average amount. I personally like rolling just because, you could end up with like, really awesome rolls, but then you could end up with like one low score, but it's like, you know what? I'll roll with it. And for all you know, that can actually influence a character, so do that when you will. But I got my 6 numbers. So now you can put those numbers wherever you want. So don't think like, the first number I rolled, that's automatically going to be my strength, and the second number is going to be dexterity. It's like, no. You can put these numbers wherever you want. So naturally, depending on what class you want, is going to determine, that's usually like the stats. So each class has stats they're really good in. So, for example, for Ranger specifically, as I'm looking into the player's handbook, the highest score for a Ranger is Dexterity, followed by Wisdom. So those are going to be Dior's 2 highest stats, and would you know it, I happen to have 2 16s. So I am going to go on ahead and add them. And then after that, pretty much you go from there. I personally like to make the next stat Constitution, because I like having high health. And then I'm going to say, 12 on the charisma, 12 on the intelligence, and then for the ranger, I'll probably make strength the dump stat.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, I put my 18 into wisdom, which it's one of the most important stats for clerics, if not the most important. 17 for my constitution, because, you know, gotta be able to take the damage. And they also recommend that for quick builds for clerics. Then I made my dump stat my dex, because what half-orc uses dexterity?
Right.
Then I put 12... Oh, wait, no. I put 10 into my strength, and then I added +2 from the orcs, because they give you +2 strength. Which, actually, they give you +1 in constitution as well. So my 17 became an 18 in constitution. And then I put my 2 12s into charisma and intelligence. So.
All right. That's cool. Now, you might be wondering why specifically, and again, this is where I love the Google Doc version of the character sheet. What are these numbers that you see above where it says +0, +3, +1? That is what is called a modifier. This is where the math comes in, and the book does have this down. Depending on what that number is, it affects what it gives a second number, which is what is known as a modifier. And the modifiers, this goes into saving throws and skills, which is actually probably going to be the next thing I tackle. But again, what I love about the Google Doc is it does the math for me. So and like you, Jordan, I am fucking awful at math. So anything that makes the process easier is A-okay by me. All right. So next we're going to see, we'll tackle this box here that says saving throws. Basically what a saving throw is something happens, like, you know, characters walk into a room, something happens. The dungeon master may say, I want you to make X saving throw. And it's like, depending on what you roll, you can either, you know, maybe completely avoid it or you'll run into it or something. So it's like, it's more of that kind of stuff. So again, classes specialize in certain saving throws. So for example, the ranger specializes in strength and dexterity. So what you're going to want to do is check them. And that basically says, you know, okay, if the dungeon master was to say, you know, okay, I need Dior to make a strength saving throw, because that's a ranger's specialty, Dior has a higher chance of actually making the saving throw, as opposed to like, I need you to make a Constitution saving throw. Okay, then it's probably going to be a little bit lower because it's not something he specializes in.
Yeah. So some saving throws you may hear more than others, but this is a good way to help boost your chances. It doesn't guarantee success, but it gives you better, opportunities to make those rolls.
Yeah. Okay. So usually the next thing I do with that afterwards, I immediately go right into the skills. So everybody has all these different types of skills. So depending, and again, races, background, and class can give you certain skills that you specialize in. So, for example, a ranger, for skills, I can choose any 3 from animal handling, athletics, insight, investigation, nature, perception, stealth, and survival. So out of those options, I can pick 3 of those, any 3 that I want for Dior, and those will be skills that he specializes in. And it's like, I think so.
I'm picking my skills too.
Yeah, it's where it's like,
how this is turning out, Artec is turning out to be quite the silver-tongued individual. So I think I want to give him Persuasion and medicine. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, and then I've decided...
They're not good at healing people.
Okay, and I've decided I am going to give Dior insight, perception, and stealth.
Yeah, that's right. While clerics get 2 skills for you to start from, rangers get 3.
Yes, so again, it depends. And mind you, right now I'm just focusing on the class stuff. I like to focus on class first, then I go down to race, then I go down to background. So we'll be kind of hopping back and forth on the sheet a little bit, but right now I'm focusing on the class stuff first. So now that I've at least gotten that set up, we move over to this next box. This is going to basically determine things like your health, your armor, that kind of stuff. So if you see this box where it says AC, that's pretty much that's how much defense you have, which that no doubt is affected by what equipment you have, what skills you may have, that kind of stuff. Hit points, again, kind of a given. You ever played an RPG of any kind, you know what a goddamn hit point is. Speed, that usually, again, that determines how fast a character moves on battlefields. I think for the most part that really where you'll see that'll come into play is some classes, like due to their size, like a dwarf or a halfling or a gnome, because they're going to be smaller, they're naturally going to be a little bit slower. But I know there's like, you get some people where they play on maps, they play on like grid maps, and that's where it's like, oh, like each square is 5 feet, so that just determines how far you move on the map. Usually, like Jordan, when we play on the abode, we don't play with any kind of a board or anything. We do what is known as theater of the mind. We use our imaginations. So speed, tragically, is something we kind of end up ignoring, but it's all based... Something to keep in mind, just depends on how you're playing the game.
Yeah, although if you are playing on a map, you may notice that they're often divided into grids. So squares or hexagons or whatever. Each square indicates about 5 feet of movement, unless you're already in that square to begin with. So most characters would start off with 30 feet. Sometimes it's 25 or above, so on and so forth. But 30 feet is the norm. So 30 feet means you can move up to that many amount of squares because, well, each movement is divided by 5. So if you use all your movement to get over to one side of the battlefield to the other, you expend all your movement.
Okay. So yeah, you know, I know a lot of this might sound confusing, but it's all in the book. So that's what that is. So this middle box here where it says init, that is what is known as initiative. So when it's time to fight, the Dungeon Master will say, I need you all to roll initiative. That is where all the players, they roll, and this is what determines combat order. So I believe it's usually based on dexterity. The higher your dexterity, the chances of you being like one of the first people to make a move increases. And like, funny thing is, like in the abode, for example, my character, I play the cleric of that group, and she kind of has about an average dexterity. Everybody else has pumped all their stats into dexterity and such. They have higher dexterity than her. So 9 times out of 10, she's usually the last person to move, which makes sense. Like, everybody else gets a turn, and then the cleric has to go and, pick up the pieces after everybody's moved. So,
and continuing on with that tradition, Artek here has an initiative of -1, because his dexterity stat is 8, which gives you a -1 modifier. Oh my god.
Right,
if I ever get into a game with this guy and I'm asked to roll a dexterity-based thing, I'm hoping I roll a 0.
Okay. But it's but again, you can play that to your advantage or something with the character. there was a game that we were playing, I think, what you call it? Oh, it's been a while since we played it, but this is where I was playing, and I know I've showcased her voice on this channel before, but my Dragonborn Paladins and Kira Del Makrodak, she's the one with the stereotypical Russian accent that I use. That's such bullshit. But she's my Paladin, and I purposefully actually don't pump dexterity in her, and that's because I specifically wanted her to be like, okay, you're basically having a dragon wearing armor and being a paladin. I don't think that's gonna be very fast. So I deliberately built her to be slow. But again, it boils down to what it is you want to do. So now, hit points. So what determines hit points? Once again, class.
Mm-hmm.
So
all there in the manual.
Usually it's all in the manual. So to at least get started on level 1, for a ranger, it is 10 plus the Constitution modifier. So the plus 1. So again, the plus 1 is the modifier. So 10 plus 1, 11. That is what you would start with. When you gain a level, you can decide 2 ways. You can either roll a specific dice, and that gives you the randomness, or the book gives you just a straight number. I like rolling because, again, I like my randomness. So sometimes I get good rolls, sometimes I get bad rolls. I leave that in the dice's hands. So hang on, I gotta find my dice. Yeah, because remember, so I am building Dior as level 3. So I need, where's my D10? There it is. Okay. So Rangers use a D10. The best way to describe a D10, it's weird. It looks kind of round when you're looking at it from above, but when you look on the side, it almost looks like a diamond. It's like, it's a 10-sided dice, so 5 on each side, but it's kind of diamond shaped. It's weird. It's really freaking weird. And, hang on, let me roll this real quick. So for a ranger, it is whatever number I roll on the D10 plus the Constitution modifier. So I'm going to roll, and I rolled a 5. So 5 plus 1, that's a 6. 6 plus 11, 17. One more time. I rolled an 8. And 8 plus 1 is 9. And fuck me with my mental math. 26, I believe. I hope to God. Okay. Math is my mortal enemy, people. It really is. Okay. Alrighty, so... while that's going on, I'm so sorry. I am ignoring the chat. I am so sorry, guys. It's like, this is what happens when I get caught.
I'm trying to keep my eye on it, too.
Yeah, because, like, I'm seeing some people asking, so, like, Jordan Carroll, are there any Lancer classes in D&D? Technically, yes. The closest you're going to get is what is known as Cavalier. That is a subclass for fighter. So that is where it's like, yeah, you can ride a mount with a lance and all that other fun stuff. So it's like, if that's what you're referring to, like as like a Lancer class, Cavalier would be your best choice. If you're thinking more like you want to be more kind of like a Dragoon class, like a Final Fantasy Dragoon, where they jump high and then they just do all kinds of damage, again, this is where you can get very creative, and it's like, depending on how you build, you can make that possible.
Yeah, like, you want to be Geralt of Rivia from The Witcher? Just pick Monster Slayer Ranger.
Yeah, there's actually... So there's a guy... I'll plug this. There's a guy on YouTube named, Tulak the Barbarian. He specializes in building characters. And it's like he does all different kinds of video game characters, anime characters, movie characters, book characters, you name it. He's like, I'm going to pick a character and I'm going to build this character from like level 1 to level 20 because that's how high you go. And let's see, what kind of perks would I give him? What kind of magic would I give them and stuff? But sticking true to the character. So if you really want something for like inspiration, if you want to call it that, that's a guy that I highly recommend watching. He's a lot of fun. Okay. So the down here, this box here where it says temporary hit points, there are some spells that if cast on someone, it kind of gives them a little extra HP boost. But I found lots of times I don't know, I haven't really taken advantage of temporary hit points or anything, but it's there.
Mostly my fault.
No problem. But it's like you have that condition. So if you get hit with status ailments, poison, paralysis, exhaustion, like stunned, petrification, if you're grappled, make a note on that sheet there under condition, so that tells you, okay, I'm inflicted here, and again, just like any other typical RPG, whatever the status effect you suffer from, you get all different kinds of effects and shit.
Yeah.
Okay, hit dice. Jordan, you're probably going to have to explain this one, because I still don't quite understand what the hell is a hit dice.
Hit dice is what, it's determined by your class as well. So using Cleric, for example, their hit dice is 1d8. So it also goes over, hit points at first level and then hit points at higher levels. So it continuously uses, that same dice. Although, if you want to play your character a certain way, they do have other ways to spin it. But generally, the hit dice is what you use on level ups.
Okay. Yeah, that's where it's like, again, it's like, I heard something where it's like, I think it's like if, when your characters are resting, they can use the hit dice to replenish health or something like, I don't get it, but I think my problem with that is because I'm playing the cleric, it's like, guys, don't worry about your hit dice. I got you covered. So it's like,
don't worry about your hit dice. Worry about me recovering them. I'm your hit dice now.
So that's why I don't bother with hit dice. I think that is because my first reaction is, oh, we're resting. Oh, we're all low on health. Okay, I need to cast this healing spell on you. I need to use this on you. So it's like, I take care of the healing for everybody, but
you get a cure wounds.
Yeah, that's like, I've made this known multiple times. I love playing heal and support classes, so of course cleric is my favorite class. And honestly, like from what I've played so far, I'd have to say my top 3 favorite classes: clerics, bards, paladins. I really like playing paladin a lot. Okay, now to explain death saves. So, you're fighting something, your hit points drop down to 0. Now you have to roll the dice to determine whether your character gets to live and hang on by the very skin of their teeth, or they just flat out die. And that's it for the sheet. Unless you get revived or something like that. So usually what happens is when you've run out of hit points, this is where you have to roll your dice. And if you roll well, you have succeeded in a death save. If you do not, that's a fail. You roll 3 successes, you get to live. You fail 3 times, you're dead. And it's like, I think even in the Abode, in Jordan's campaign that we're in, I think there's really only been one time where we've actually had to have people that they were in the death state, and that was when we were going up against That was when we were going up against the Mad Drow King. He kicked the shit out of half of our party. So it's just like,
and Impaled Riona and Rags was going under free fall. although let it be known, because I'm still not exactly the best DM, death saves didn't really happen a lot in the campaign because, well, I didn't know how to hit my party.
No, but that one time, and mind you, Morno Ornray, pretty big bad guy, one of the main antagonists in this campaign. And it's like, yeah, he practically he damn near decimated us. And it was like, yeah, some of our strongest party members had to end, were in the middle of rolling death saves. So it was like, that was nerve-wracking. It was fun, but it was like, oh my god, there's a possibility we might die here. Oh shit.
Oh shit, oh fuck.
So that was fun. Okay, before we move on to this next one, Darkman Knight asks, what happens if a player wants to play a race that's not in the manual? Is it downright refused? Not necessarily. It depends on it depends on the DM. If the Dungeon Master says, okay, the Dungeon Master ultimately gets the final say on a lot of those kinds of things. So if the Dungeon Master says all races from all the expansion books are available, cool. If you want to make up your own race or your own class or something, usually you have to talk to the DM about that, because they got to make sure to make it fit not only into their campaign, but to make it actually fit in Dungeons and Dragons. Like, so Dior that I'm building here for the campaign that I'm going to run whenever that may be, like when we're done with the abode. When I start this game, so Brian, the character that he's bringing in is actually going to be a homebrewed race. He's actually going to be playing. He actually has made a homebrew race based on the Bone creatures from Jeff Smith's comic series, Bone. He loves that comic book series. He got me into reading it, and he made a homebrew race for it. And he said, "Is it okay if I make a Bone character?" And I said, and I took a look at what he had, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I think we can make this work." So yeah, Brian's actually going to be bringing a homebrewed race into my campaign.
Yeah, that being said, please read Bone. It's a great read.
Yes, please. Bone is amazing. Okay.
And getting a Netflix adaptation one of these days.
They said this years ago, and we have not seen shit. So it's like, oh god,
I hope it's not in development hell already.
I'm scared. Yeah, I'm with you, Jordan. I'm scared. I'm very, very scared. Okay.
I'm afraid.
So this last box here, where it says personality traits, ideals, your bonds, your flaws. This is going to be more about, like, again, this is going into, like, character backstory and stuff. I save this for last. Because, honestly, it's like, if this is just me, I have a much easier time, like, okay, I can build the sheet, I can determine skills, I can determine equipment, but when it's time to make the backstory, fuck, what do I do? So it's like, I usually save that stuff for last. But to basically summarize, personality traits, again, what are some personality traits? What are some quirks about the character? Ideals, what do they stand for? Bonds, are they, do they hold someone or something very near and dear to them? And then, of course, flaws, again, self-explanatory. I'll actually pull up an example. So this is actually the sheet that you can see. This is actually the sheet from my cleric in the abode. So my character, Castiel. So her personality traits, I try to live by Dora's example of compassion. Dora being a fellow cleric who kind of helped, like, she befriended her and kind of helped teach her the ways of the life cleric. And, Dora just treated her so well, and Castiel's like, that's the kind of person, that's the kind of cleric I want to be. So she holds Dora in very high regard. So that she holds that. Her ideals. I trust that the goddess Melva in Jordan's universe, I trust that Melva will guide me to those who need my help most. Typical for a cleric. Bonds. I will someday find fellow Kenya survivors, and we will heal from the ordeal together. Castiel, she lived in what was known as the Kenya woodland. And the woodland, at some point in her life, her village gets attacked, and the forest even is just set on fire. And everybody, those who didn't perish, pretty much scattered all across the world. So, a big factor for why she's adventuring is she's trying to find fellow survivors. And naturally, flaws. Seeking the truth behind Kenya's end may come into conflict with my dedication to Melva's teachings. And actually, right now in Jordan's campaign, that is something my character is currently going through right now. Because, again, Castiel, throughout the majority of this campaign, very nice, very compassionate, the kind of person that, usually come to if you have problems and stuff. She's always there to lend an ear. But once she started learning about, okay, who was responsible for torching her village? She's got a name, Morinel Orenray. She starts hearing a little bit more about him, that, he's the king of the Drow Elves, but he's gone mad because a good number of his own people were just completely cast out by him. And then we got to a point where, like what we mentioned before, we actually came into contact with him, and he damn near fucking killed us. So right now, where she is in the campaign, now that she's met him and seen him and knows what he's done, a lot, really where her inner struggle is now coming in is, yes, she's supposed to be, this paragon of righteousness and doing and following her God's teachings, but that's now coming into conflict because she wants this fucker to pay for everything that he's done. To the point where several refugees, her best friend's mom, even her goddess has warned her, don't fall to his level. Don't fall to the hatred. Because that's something she's going through right now in the campaign. So it's that was a flaw, but only now is it starting to really take fruition. So, again, make of that what you will. But that's usually some of the last stuff that I worry about. So I'm not going to worry about coming up with characters, ideals, bonds, or flaws for Dior right now. I will, probably after the stream, but not now. Jordan Carroll asks, here's a sort of random question since it does have to do with character creations. Have you thought of creating your own Final Fantasy story and characters, or your own JoJo fan part? I actually... Okay, like I said, I am trying to put together a little mini campaign that's loosely based on the Knights game, so that is something that's coming onto the channel. In time, my long-term campaign will be on this channel. I've even thought about possibly doing a campaign that is set after Golden Wind. But I know I can't even begin planning that until we get you done with part 5, Jordan.
Yeah, we still need to get through it.
Yeah, I know. We've shown you the first 7 episodes, so it's I gotta get you through that before I can even begin thinking, okay, yeah, let's do a D&D JoJo campaign. And the challenge for that is I really got to think of, okay, how am I going to make stands work in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign?
We talked about it months ago, and we were eking on certain ideas, but then it was okay, mechanically, how would this work?
Yeah. But, that's something we gotta worry about. Okay. So, now the next thing is we talk about basic equipment. So, there's a box that you just write down what is the weapons and armor that your character has equipped. There is a box for attacks, spells, all that stuff. It's quick reference shit. And then we have under notes where it says proficient in armor, proficient in weapons, vehicles, and stuff. Again, all of this is based on what class that you're picking in. Because naturally, some classes are going to have advantages over others. So, like, a wizard, for example, is usually not going to be wearing, like, heavy armor like a paladin would. So, basically, when they mean that you're proficient in something, it just means, like, okay, you're really good with these. So, technically, you can equip any armor, you can equip any weapon you want. Ideally, you want to stick with your class's strengths. So, for a ranger, they are proficient in light armor, medium armor, and shields. So, that's something I'm going to write down. So, light, medium, and shields. So, the difference between the armors. Light, again, it's your most lightweight armor. Very proficient in, like, for stealth and stuff. So this is like padded armor, leather armor, that kind of stuff. Medium, you get to get a little bit heavier. So like a chainmail, chainmail armor, well, maybe not chainmail. Hang on, not chainmail. Chainmail is heavy. I'm looking it up in the book right now. So medium armor is hide, chain shirt, scale mail, a breastplate, and a half plate. Heavy armor offers the highest defense, but they don't do good on stealth. You gotta bear that in mind. If you're trying to, like, sneak somewhere and you're wearing heavy armor, you're gonna make a lot of noise. So that's the one disadvantage to having heavy armor. But if that's something you're willing to swallow to have that high defense, so be it. So,
and essentially, disadvantage is you make the majority of your rolls with the biggest die, the d20. When they say you need to roll stealth with disadvantage, it means that you need to roll twice, and whatever is your lowest amount, you gotta take it.
Right. So, but yeah, and then shields, again, self-explanatory. You can equip a shield. If you do, you get a little bit of a defensive boost. Question: why isn't the chat working on the stream itself? I don't know. YouTube is being a dick.
But we can see it, so it's okay.
It's like I got you, chat. I'm looking at the chat on my phone, so I got you like that. So trust I damn yeah. I can't talk.
It's okay. I'm not good with the inglass either.
Anywho, weapons. For a ranger, rangers are very good with simple weapons and martial weapons. What is the difference between the two? Simple weapons are... I'm trying to think. What's the best way to describe simple versus martial?
Simple weapons are things like clubs and quarterstaves, and martial weapons are things like swords, axes, specifically great axes. It ultimately depends, but again, it's right there in the manual. I don't think there's, to my understanding, there's not too big of a difference. It's just they have their own different quirks. So one weapon may have something that another weapon doesn't.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just read the weapons list real quick. Simple melee weapons: clubs, daggers, great club, hand axe, javelin, a light hammer, a mace, quarterstaff, a sickle, a spear. A simple ranged weapon: a light crossbow, throwing darts, a short bow, or a sling. Martial melee weapons: battle axe, flail, glaive, great axe, great sword, halberd, lance, longsword, maul, morning star, pike, rapier, scimitar, short sword, trident, war pick, warhammer, and a whip. And then for a martial ranged weapon, a blowgun, a hand crossbow, a heavy crossbow, a longbow, and a net. So those are traditionally the available weaponry that you have. So, next, proficient in vehicles. I know Rangers, it's not listed, so I'm assuming that is none. Usually what they mean by vehicles, it's like anything from mounts to, like, again, like any kind of vehicles. Like, maybe the campaign is like, okay, you have horseback. Can you ride a horse? Can the horse perhaps carry a cart? Can you handle doing that? Maybe your campaign has some sort of like weird Magitech or something in there. Like maybe they kind of have like weird steampunk cars or something. That's a vehicle.
Yeah, or hell, maybe the Batmobile is an option.
Yeah, maybe they know how to pilot a ship or an airship or a plane or something. So it's like it depends primarily, I think, on background, race, maybe class. Like again, a lot of this is kind of specialties.
Mm-hmm.
Tools. Rangers are not proficient in any tools. So again, there's a wide variety of tools, but I don't blame this on you, Jordan, by any means, because even in other people's campaigns, I've rarely had to use any kind of tools. I've rarely had to. Like, there's all different kinds of tools, and it's supposed to be, like, stuff that kind of helps you out along the way. So, like, I know, like, thieves. Thieves usually have, like, thieving tools. So that includes stuff like lockpicks and shit. But there's just tools even for day jobs. So it's like, you can have painting tools. You can have writing tools. You can have cooking tools. You want to brew beer? There's tools for that. You want to do pottery? There's tools for that. If you actually want to be kind of like, if you want to come from a background of smithing, so you know how to smith weapons, there's tools available to do that. I've rarely ever had to use tools in multiple campaigns, so I have personally not had benefit from them. In what category of weapon would a gun be put in?
All right, I already answered that.
Oh, you did?
According to 5e tools, a pistol, and actually the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is what it was borrowing off of, is considered to be a martial ranged weapon. And it deals 1d10 piercing damage.
Okay. Yeah, so again, a lot of that'll be should be listed in the book. Like in the books. I think especially because it's like I said, there is a class that came out in expanded material known as Artificer. And Artificer, these guys build, they build weapons. And they're, like, you want to bring, like, Magitech hand cannons into a fantasy setting, that's where the Artificer is going to be. I am aware that Matt Mercer, specifically for Critical Role, created a subclass of fighter for Gunslinger specifically for Percy in the first campaign. If you go on D&D Beyond, I believe they have the specifics for that. So technically, like, he built it and he shared it, so, if you want to play a Gunslinger, he's made rules for it.
Actually, he made an entire, he made an entire, thing on it on the website known as the Dungeon Masters Guild. So he also made an entirely new class called Blood Hunter. Let me look it up real fast.
Yeah, a Blood Hunter, if I recall correctly, because Blood Hunter, that was a class that in this current campaign on Critical Role with the Mighty Nine, there was a character named Mollymock, and he was a Blood Hunter. And I believe, if I recall correctly, the Blood Hunter, it's basically like, you're a fighter, but you have like, you have some kind of maybe like cursed blood or something. Like maybe it's like you tap into like, you tap into werewolf, you tap into ghosts, that kind of stuff. But like you're literally using your blood for attacks.
Yeah. Again, it's similar to, a Witcher, because there's even a subclass that you can get later down the road, known as a mutant. So they specialize. Blood Hunter mutants specialize with, well, mutating themselves. I don't know the exact specifics, but a Blood Hunter is a very interesting class.
Would you guys like to see a Critical Role video game? I'm honestly, I was like, has there been one? Because they've been doing so much shit with Critical Role. Like, I know they were doing like an animated series and shit. So I mean, it's like,
yeah.
Have they dabbled into that yet?
The closest thing they've done to that was have them cross over with Pillars of Eternity 2, where you can play as every single party member in the first campaign, except Tiberius Stormwind, because he's a dick.
Okay.
But you can play as Gilmore.
Okay.
The Merchant.
Alright, yeah, close enough. Anywho, so moving on. Okay. Starting equipment. Once again, depending on your race, not your class, depending on your class, determines what kind of equipment that you are naturally going to start with. So for a ranger can have scale mail or leather armor. So I can pick either of those two. So I'm actually going to quickly take a look at those. So if I want scale mail, this is going to help determine armor class. Scale mail is a 14 plus my dex modifier, but it has a disadvantage on stealth. Leather is 11 plus the dex modifier, so less armor, but I can stealth with it. That's actually something I want. So I am going to be giving him the leather armor. 2 short swords or 2 simple melee weapons. Okay, what do I want to give Dior? It's like... So, okay. So the idea that I have for Dior, the way I'm trying to plan him out, I should have said this earlier. I am so sorry. I'm scatterbrained. But, the basic idea that I'm kind of having for Dior is that, okay, yes, he comes from noble society, and the reason he's a ranger is because, I'm thinking, okay, what do nobles like to do for sport? Oh, they like to hunt, because that's proper sport. What? That kind.
Actually, they did actually hunt a lot in medieval England.
Yeah.
It was a favorite pastime of the nobles.
Yeah, and that's why Dior is going to be a ranger. This is his sport. He is very much on hunting. So naturally, that's why I went with the leather armor, because I'm thinking, oh, if he's going out hunting, he's not going to want to make himself known. So as soon as I saw, scale mail, disadvantage on stealth, no thank you. So as far as weapons go, I think I'll give him 2 simple weapons. I will give him a dagger, and I'll give him a sickle while I'm at it. Because sickles are cool.
Sickles are cool.
Yeah. I'm thinking a dagger if he ever needs to cut up meat or something, and a sickle is hey, I need to clear some brushwood or something around. Okay. A Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack. So what packs are in this game? It's pretty much like a group of items. And, it's usually things like, hang on, let me pull up. So, for example, an Explorer's pack. So, Dior, with this pack, he will have a backpack, a bedroll, a mess kit, a tinderbox, 10 torches, 10 days of rations, a water skin, and about 50 feet of rope. So, he'll get all of that to start with. And that's actually something I am going to do, because there is one for dungeoneering too, but why the fuck is a noble going in a dungeon?
Yeah. Unless it's a very dungeon-focused campaign, which would be bad for a ranger because, well, you'll explain later down the road.
Right. And then lastly, a longbow and a quiver of 20 arrows. So that is something to consider if you are going to be playing using any kind of range stuff, be it bows, crossbows, or even guns. You have ammunition to keep track of. And that is going to be his starting equipment. So let me pull it up real quick. So now that I've gotten everything, now I can determine armor class. So leather armor, 11, plus the dexterity mod, which is 3, 14. Basically what this means is that should the Dungeon Master be like, you know what, I'm going to have this monster target Dior. They roll the 20. The Dungeon Master has to roll at least a 14 to hit him. So if the Dungeon Master rolls and is like, okay, I'm going to go attack Dior, I rolled a 10. That's a miss. Like, that's an automatic, flat-out miss. Should he hit the 14 or say, like, or higher, like, let's say, oh, I rolled a 16. All right, you hit me. How much damage am I taking? That kind of stuff. So that's what armor class is. This is what's going to determine whether you're going to get, what number is it going to take to determine whether you're going to get hit or you're going to completely dodge it. Personal question. How hard would it be to make a summoner class? Someone who calls upon all kinds of monsters to help them or fight for you. There's classes for it.
Yeah. I just wrote down, that's what the Conjurer Wizard attempts to be, but there's also what's known as the Swarmkeeper Ranger, where you can essentially make an entire swarm of, like, bees, spiders, cats attack enemies for you.
Yeah, so, like, you can do that. I think there's some subclasses for druids, I think, that do stuff similar to that, where they can summon animals, to either like, attack or to help out. And there's actually even spells that, where you can actually flat out summon shit. Like Castiel, for example, like my cleric. One of the spells that she has is like, yeah, she can summon not exactly the goddess, but she can summon like a creature, like a divine creature, basically. Like, we like to say, she's using her stand power,
Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
It's essentially what it is. I think it's called like the Guardian of Faith, I believe it is.
Guardian of Faith, yeah, that's it.
So yeah, Castiel can summon a Guardian of Faith onto the field, and that's a creature that she can summon on the field that can do some extra damage to anybody that, comes within range. So, yes.
One of the first things Castiel used it for is throwing in an Aura Rush on a carnival game.
Yeah, because it's like, we were doing it was a carnival game where it was like, okay, hit all the targets, but you have to use magic. So what does the cleric do? Summons a Guardian of Faith and literally makes the stand explode.
Yeah, so you pretty much won that entire bout. Yeah, I think it went from, I know Baku was one of them. He did well. Then came, it's escaping me. It was either Lele or Rags. Then it was you.
And I ruined it for everybody.
Yeah. But you became the champion of that game, so it's not all bad.
Right. Okay. So now for the weapons. So again, in the player's handbook, they actually do tell you how much damage each weapon does. And this is where this middle box for attacks and spellcasting and such, this is gonna be your quick reference for your various attacks and such. So, for example, like longbow, dagger, sickle. So pretty much whatever equipment that you have, like if there's going to be like any spells that you use frequently or something, you just need a quick reference. That's what this box is for. So, for example, a longbow, 1d8 piercing. What that means, say I want Dior to be able to shoot somebody with his bow and arrow, and it hits. The damage is determined by 1d8. A d8 is an 8-sided die, and it looks like it's a perfect diamond. So whatever I roll, that's how much damage that bow will do. Likewise, a dagger is 1d4 piercing damage, and the sickle is 1d4 slashing damage. So again, slashing, piercing, bludgeoning damage, if you play any kind of RPG, you know what the hell this is.
Yeah. Although, to my understanding in D&D, the damage types, some enemies are especially weak to them, but there's, to my understanding at least, they're mostly there for flavors. So you take 4 points of fire damage. That doesn't mean you're automatically catching on fire, unless the DM rules you got to make a Constitution save to pat out the flames. It's definitely up to the imagination of everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. Now, bear in mind, weapons have you can do different things with weapons, but not only just with damage. Like daggers, you can throw a dagger. So, you can throw the dagger. A sickle is very quick and lightweight to use. The longbow, however, is going to use both of his hands, and it's very heavy. So this is not. So that's going to be something okay, if he's going to be shooting from far away and stuff, that's where it's his hands are going to be preoccupied, knocking that bow. But if he's going to charge in the middle of combat, he's not charging in with the goddamn bow. He's going to charge in with the dagger or the sickle, or both. So it's again, completely up to you. All right. So that at least for the most part takes care of equipment and such. So as you're following the classes, now it's time to get into some of the more unique features that come with each of the classes, and specifically for Ranger. So there's features you start with, and then you'll gain new features, or maybe a feature will get better as you level up. So for a Ranger, at level 1, they get Favored Enemy and Natural Explorer. Favored Enemy. Beginning at the first level, you have significant experience studying, tracking, hunting, and even talking to a certain type of enemy. So the enemy, it can be aberrations, beasts, celestials, constructs, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, giants, monstrosities, oozes, plants, or the undead. Alternatively, you can select 2 races of humanoids, such as gnolls and orcs, as favored enemies. So, for Dior, the way I'm thinking this is a boy, he's hunting for sport. What is he typically going to run into? Most likely, just regular animals. If I recall correctly, Jordan, those are beasts. If I recall correctly,
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, because because again I'm thinking because he's gonna be hunting game and such, so he'll be hunting deer, foxes, birds, maybe the occasional bear, that kind of stuff, the typical shit you normally find trying to gnaw on your giblets when you're playing Skyrim, but so that's probably gonna be what his favorite enemy would be.
Yeah, personal recommendation: don't play D&D like Skyrim. You'll probably piss off your DM. Okay, I'm just gonna sneak behind this guy and take all of his swords.
Right.
Okay, roll stealth. 16. Okay, so you take all his swords, and then you ring back all right in front of him, and he's like, "What? What are you doing with my swords?" Because you're literally carrying all the swords on your back.
Yeah. So basically, with favorite enemy. So again, this is where it's like, you're picking a type of enemy that you're going to specialize in hunting. So, like I said, I want Dior to specialize in hunting beasts. So he comes across a beast, he's going to get real effective and knowledgeable. Put him up against undead, for example. Like, put him up against Field of Zombies. Boy's not going to know what the fuck to do. that. So I will make a note of that. So favorite enemy is going to be beasts. Natural Explorer. You are particularly familiar with one type of natural environment and you're adept at traveling and surviving. And that is Arctic, coast, desert, forest, grassland, mountain, swamps, or the Underdark. So again, I'm thinking a noble that's normally hunting out for sport. He's probably going to be either hunting in a forest or maybe grassland. I mean, I don't know. What would you think, Jordan? Because you have more experience with rangers than I do. So,
I'd say that's a fair bet. Forests, grasslands, mostly things surrounding flora and fauna alike.
Yeah.
And preferably in areas where obviously you can hunt.
Forest is a good bet. Yeah, I'll say forest for that one. So, at level 1, those are 2 features that the ranger specifically gets. But, as I mentioned, I'm building Dior to starting at level 3 because I'm thinking that's probably going to be around the level that the players are going to be when they first meet this guy. So I want him to be around the same level. So, according to the book, at level 2, the ranger adopts a particular style of fighting as a specialty. They can specialize in archery. You gain a +2 bonus to attack rolls. Defense, when you're wearing armor, you gain +1. You gain some extra armor class. Dueling, when you are wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other, you get some bonus damage. Or you can engage in 2-weapon fighting. I am going to be going archery on this one. Because again, I'm thinking hunting. That's what this boy's doing. So he is going to focus on archery. So whenever he uses his bow and arrow, whenever I go to attack, so it's like, okay, I'm going to go attack and I'm going to make my roll. He gets a +2 bonus. So if I rolled a 16, for example, add 2 to that, that roll just became 18. Chances are likely that's going to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then rangers also at level 2 begin casting spells. I'm holding off on that. Spells is a whole other beast, so we will get to the spells in due time.
Mm-hmm.
So now, at level 3, you gain, the ranger gets primeval awareness. You can use your action, and I can use a spell slot. Again, I'll go into spell slots later. To focus your awareness on the region around you. For 1 minute, you can sense whether the following types of creatures are present within a mile of you. And they list off aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, undead. So, again, it's basically kind of like, it sounds like spider sense, basically. So I'm just going to make that note there because that is a feature that I gain at level 3. But most importantly, most classes at level 3, this is what you get what is known as a subclass. This is what's going to determine, okay, you might be a ranger, or in Jordan's case, you might be a cleric. What type of cleric do you want to be? What type of ranger do I want Dior to be? Because there's different varieties. So this is
correction on that.
There are.
Yeah.
That's why I said most classes. I know cleric is a big exception because you get your spell class right off the bat at level 1.
Yeah, but the trick is you don't get the benefits until a little further in, which is usually around level 3. Although there are some exceptions.
Right. So, again, so for Ranger archetype, again, I know we briefly talked about this, but in the book, in the player's handbook, at level 3, I could be a hunter, or I could be a beastmaster. That being said, though, to my understanding, it's like, yeah, neither of these subclasses are not really that good. Lots of people, when they say Rangers suck, they're talking about the subclasses that are provided in the player's handbook. They're not that impressive. Meanwhile, there is like an expansion book called Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And that has a lot more unique subclasses. And for a ranger, you can be a monster slayer, which is you want to be a witcher. That's the class that you're gonna be. You're gonna be a monster. You're gonna be a monster slayer. So there's that. There's Gloom Stalker, which is basically like, a ranger, but really kind of specializes in the darkness. And then there is one called Horizon Walker. And Horizon Walker, from what it sounds like, that's a ranger, but they specialize in protecting other planes of existence and shit.
Essentially, yeah, you're the defender of different worlds, which is fucking dope as hell.
Yeah. So it's like, so again,
I think that's the class I want to be for the Knights campaign, for the record.
Ooh. That actually,
yeah, it's like, yeah.
That would actually,
I'm gonna Ranger again, but
yeah, but that would actually be interesting, considering that this is a class that's all about considering that's a campaign that's all about dreams and nightmares and shit. It's like you can get real creative with that, I would think. So hey, I'd be all for it. So
that's gonna be my class then.
Nice. Okay, so that being said, I know for Dior, I said I didn't I wanted him to be hunter, hunting for sport and stuff. And I was thinking maybe that's the one that I would go down, is the hunter archetype that's in the player's handbook. But then I thought, wait a minute. I'm making him a drow elf. Drow elves specialize by living, they've lived underground. They live in the dark, in the shadows. That sounds like Gloom Stalker to me. So that's why I'm thinking, you know what? Let's play into his heritage. So that's the kind of ranger class I'm going to make him. Dior is going to be a Gloom Stalker. And then, again, when you pick your archetype, there's more features. So, Gloom Stalkers get some unique magic. Again, I'll get to that later. At level 3 for a Gloom Stalker, you master the art of the ambush. You give yourself a bonus to your initiative rolls equal to your wisdom modifier. So it's like, oh, I can just ambush everybody. Fuck yes, please. So, Dread Ambusher, that is a feature. Also at level 3, the Gloom Stalker gets what is known as Umbral Sight. You gain Dark Vision, and Dark Vision is to be able to see in the dark. You gain Dark Vision out to a range of 60 feet. If you have Dark Vision from your race, which Drow Elves do, it increases by 30 feet. So, this boy is going to see really far in the dark. No. Crystal Star. Okay, back. My right eye was itching since yesterday, so I used eye drops to help it. Ooh, itchy eye sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. So that being said, this, for the most part, pretty much takes care of most of the class stuff. So now, the last thing we can focus on for classes, magic. What if you want to make a Dragonborn wizard? You can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is a class known as Dragonborn. It's literally like human-sized bipedal dragons, and that's a race. And you can make that class, you can make that race to be whatever you want. Like I said, like, I have a paladin I have a Dragonborn paladin. Like, specifically a conquest paladin. So it's like, that's actually a character that I got. She's a lot of fun to play. I really like playing her. So, yeah, you want to be a Dragonborn wizard? You can do that. So, there's a page on the sheet dedicated to magic. Magic, oh boy. So, magic can be a little challenging because there's a lot to pay attention to when it comes to magic. So if you are at all intimidated by what Jordan and I are about to explain, or if it's just going right over your heads, maybe avoid picking a class that heavily utilizes magic.
I will tell you right now, do not pick Druid as your starting class. Your head will explode.
Okay. And the funny thing is that I remember, Jordan, when you were first getting me into D&D, when I'm listening to, people talking about, watching tutorials and explanations and shit, so many people say clerics are one of the hardest classes to start out with, and a lot of it has to do with keeping track of magic and shit. And it's like, of course, that's the first fucking class that I picked, and I must have picked it up really fast because I'm like, clerics are easy. I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I think it's also because you also told me that you tend to play cleric-based classes in video games that offer them. Like, in Xenoblade Chronicles, you went through the entire game as Sharla as the leader.
Like hell, like
Sharla at all.
Like hell, I'm letting the computer control my healing. Fuck that noise. I'll do that myself.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, Sharla's AI is pretty bad in the game, so I don't blame you. But Melia and Shulk are worse.
Yes.
Let's be fair.
Yes, I mean, it's like, I know, a lot of people, they like to control, their main attackers and stuff. I'm not gonna risk bad AI control my healing. I will focus on keeping the party alive. Is there a D&D class similar to the Blue Mage from Final Fantasy? Blue Mage. So, Jordan, Blue Mage, that's your class that focuses on enemy skills. So, unique spells and attacks from enemies, Blue Mages can learn them. So,
they assimilate enemy spells?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, is there a D&D class or a subclass that's along similar lines? I'm sure it's possible. Even if there isn't one explicitly like that, there's a way you can make that concept work.
Yeah, I mean, not to my knowledge, I don't think there's a class that necessarily takes away enemy spells in order to use them, because that would be broken as all get out. Although I do know that there's some classes out there that are on the darker spectrum of alignment in terms of spells. Certain warlocks and wizards and sorcerers notwithstanding.
Right. All right, but either way, so for magic, before we can even pick what spells we want, we have to determine some stat shit. So, spell casting ability. Depending on what class you are, basically pulls from a specific stat. Rangers specifically focus on wisdom. So this is why wisdom, they were saying in the book, is a spell. That is one of the stats you should focus on, because if you are going to be using magic, that's what it's going to pull from. So the higher your wisdom stat, the better your magic is going to be. So it's like rangers use wisdom, clerics use wisdom, bards use charisma, I believe paladins use charisma, wizards, I think, are intelligence. Are sorcerers intelligence?
Sorcerers are charisma.
Oh, sorcerers are charisma. Okay.
Yeah, because, they're drawing the magic from their very being.
Oh, that makes
Particular-
sense.
a good way to distinguish the different spellcasting classes, at least in the way of Wizard, Warlock, and Sorcerer. Wizards get their magic from reading, so book smarts. Sorcerers are born with their magic, and Warlocks borrow their power from a higher being, so say Cthulhu, which is an option.
Yes, you can have Cthulhu in your game.
Yeah.
What?
The deep one, I believe it's called.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, yeah, that's a thing in this game. But anywho, okay. So again, the player's handbook does list what the stat that you're gonna call from that determines for your magic. Spell save DC. Think of this as armor class, but more tailored to magic, for example. So basically, again, in the book, what determines your spell save DC? For a ranger, it is 8 plus your wisdom modifier plus the proficiency bonus, which is listed at the top of the page. So let me look up. So 8 plus 2 on the proficiency bonus, so that's already 10. Plus 3 with wisdom, so that is a 13. So basically, again, if somebody's like, you know what, I'm gonna go fling a magic spell at you, and I need to see, okay, is that magic going to hit? Like, is that spell going to target? So, like, whether it's I'm casting like a physical spell, or maybe I want to cast a status spell or something, you have to roll again to see if that spell takes effect. So, by having a spell save of DC 13, what that means is the dungeon master is like, you know what? I want to cast some poison spell on Dior. The dungeon master has to roll at least a 13 for the spell to hit. If not, it's an automatic miss. And naturally, as you level up, and if you choose to increase your stats, like your wisdom stat and stuff, naturally that number is going to go a lot higher. And then spell attack bonus. Because if you want to give yourself a little bit of a boost for casting spells, that's nothing more than just the proficiency bonus plus the wisdom modifier, so I know that's a 5. So if there's ever an opportunity, like if Dior casts a spell or something that's like, okay, put the attack bonus towards it, I'm adding plus 5 to it. Come to think of it, is there a D&D game based on Final Fantasy? I mean, it's like, you can really, like, you can kind of, like, make it and stuff, like...
I mean, I think the short answer to that is, well,
yes,
Dungeons and Dragons is kind of the granddaddy of most RPGs.
Yeah, like, Final Fantasy actually took a lot of inspiration from Dungeons and Dragons, so, yes and no. So,
yeah.
Think of that what you will.
Or maybe D&D is just a... No, Final Fantasy is just a fan game of Dungeons and Dragons.
This is true. Okay. So, again, remembering that we are at level 3, Dior can, at level 3, so whatever class you play, if there is magic involved, they have a chart that will tell you specifically spell slots and how many spells you know and such. So, a 3rd level ranger, they know 3 first level spells. So I'm going to put that there. Think of slots kind of like an MP gauge. You have a certain amount of slots, and basically you can cast spells using up these slots. Different levels naturally determine the strength of the spell. So level 1 spells are naturally going to be relatively weak. If you happen to go down, the max level is 9. Some classes don't go to 9. Like Rangers do not go to 9. The highest rangers, from what I'm seeing in the book, the highest rangers go to is 5. So they can only learn up to level 5 spells. But if you want to play like a cleric or a wizard or a sorcerer or a bard, they can go to level 9 and they can get the really damn good spells.
Yes. I think the trade-off with the Rangers is that their spells are more functioned as, well, utility. Like, think Batman's gadgets.
Yeah. All right. As for this little guy here, this top part, cantrips. Cantrips are freebies. These are spells that do not cost anything. You can use them however many times you want, so you will always have magic equipable. That being said, though, again, a lot of these are like your lowest level stuff. A lot of it is utility. So, depending on the class that you have, determines how many cantrips you have. It does not look like Rangers learn cantrips. Am I correct on this one, Jordan?
I'm sorry. I'm typing to Brian.
No problem.
What was your question again?
Rangers, because when I'm looking on the spell chart, it just says they have spell slots for 1st through 5th, but nothing on cantrips. So
right, Rangers only start with level 1 spells. They don't get cantrips at all.
Okay.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything might have changed that, so that's
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, but either way, again, something to take care of. So
let me check that actually.
So that being said, and in the back of the player's hand guide is the list of all the spells that are in the game. Naturally, different classes, they learn different spells. So, I mean, yes, there's some classes, there's multiple classes that can learn Cure Wounds. There's multiple classes that can learn the reviving spells. There's multiple classes that can learn, Fireball, for example. But there are some classes... Yeah, Fireball. That's the most broken fucking spell in the game, and it's
that's level 3.
It's a 3rd level spell, and it causes so much damage. That's why it's just once you get Fireball, you win. It's such a broken spell.
Let me figure out how much damage it does exactly.
Okay. But there will be some spells that are very specific to classes. The most notable example of this, the Warlock. The Warlock gets a spell that is
3d6 fire damage.
3d6. So yeah, roll 3.
8d6 fire damage. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's 8d6?
8d6, yes.
Oh my god!
Save.
8d6 8 6-sided dice. Roll 8 6-sided dice, tally up the damage. That is a fireball spell. It's fucking...
they're all 6s, that's an instant death.
That's fucking busted. That is so fucking broken.
Now you know why I don't trust the magic system.
But anywho. But yes, it's so again, refer to the book. So for Ranger, at 1st level, and I can pick any of these 3. So I can pick Alarm, Animal Friendship, Cure Wounds, Detect Magic, Detect Poison and Disease, Ensnaring Strike, Fog Cloud, Good Berry, Hail of Thorns, Hunter's Mark, Jump, Long Strider, and Speak with Animals. Some of these are pretty self-explanatory, but I'm just gonna throw shit down here. This doesn't mean this is gonna stick in stone. So,
personal recommendation for those starting with Ranger. Hunter's Mark is especially good to start out with because it's essentially you're aggroing a specific enemy. You're targeting one, and I believe on the first hit, you not only deal more damage, but outside of battle, you can track them and follow them to their hiding place.
Okay.
That's what Vexalia did in Critical Role Campaign 1, because Grog was brainwashed and kidnapped, so she remembered, oh, wait a minute, I have Hunter's Mark. I still have Hunter's Mark ready, so we can just follow the trail from there. It's not just for attack.
Okay. Alright, so, like, I'll just say Hunter's Mark, I'll say Ensnaring Strike, and, Jump. Because why not?
Jump!
Yes, jumping is a spell. So it's like, so if you wanted to play, like, I think, I forgot who it was, but somebody had asked, like, hey, can you play, like, is it possible to play, like, a Dragoon Lancer type character? Like, yeah, this is how you make it possible. Learn the jumps, find a way to get the jump spell, boom. You can be a Final Fantasy Dragoon, just from having this one skill alone.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, the Cavalier Fighter is pretty much the closest thing you can get to playing as a knight, assuming you don't pick Oath of the Crown Paladin.
Right.
Which is, just a basic, stereotypical knight.
Alright. Now, that being said, because I am specifically Gloom Stalker, at certain levels, they actually gain spells that normally is not available to a ranger. But because you're a Gloom Stalker, you get these spells automatically. Does not count towards, you only know 3 spells. No, you learn this one automatically. And that is Disguise Self. So that's where it's like, yeah, I mean, I can literally cast an illusion and I can make Dior look like somebody else. Maniac, you can't just jump normally. Well, you can jump normally, but it's like, if you want to jump, like, really high distances, that's where you need the spell.
Yeah, it's a different context in, battle, or if you want to make a jump that's from a large, one end of a large chasm to another.
Right. So, let's say Dior is on the battlefield, and he decides, you know what, I am going to use Hunter's Mark. That is going to take up a spell slot. So, what we have here is slots in this first section here. That's basically what you have available. Max is, okay, that's how many spell slots you have maximum at that level. So again, think of this as like an MP gauge. So Dior's like, all right, I'm going to cast Hunter's Mark. My available slots now have gone from 3 to 2. So that means after Hunter's Mark, Dior can use 2 more spells. And then that's it. So if he does like Hunter's Mark, then he decides to jump, and then he decides to use Disguise Self, well, that's it. He's now used he's used up 3 available slots. He can't cast any more magic. The only way you can restore magic is, I believe, by resting. Usually when you're usually like when you're resting, like, okay, time to go to sleep and wake up the next day, then it's kind of like a tent. You restore all your magic, you restore all your health, that kind of stuff. So that's usually basically how you restore MP. So that's basically how this works. It's just a little bit differently. So with that said, I believe that finally takes care of the class. Like, again, this is why I do the class stuff first, because the class stuff takes so damn long, because there's a lot of shit to it. So now we can start talking about the race. So as I said, I am going to go with Drow Elves. So according to the book, Drow Elves, they basically they're known as Dark Elves. So usually they have dark skin, white hair, eyes. Basically think Shadow Link. If you you think Shadow Link, Dark Link especially, that's essentially a drow elf. And that's exactly the kind of character I want out of Dior. So it's like, like that charcoal smoky black skin, the light hair, and like a really unique eye color. That's gonna be Dior right off the bat. So what kind of perks does a drow elf get? According to the book, your charisma increases by 1. So I normally rolled a 12. That has now gone up to 13. Superior dark vision. Your dark vision has a radius of 120 feet. So dark vision, almost everybody has dark vision. But what dark vision is it's just how well do you see in the dark? And most races just automatically see well in the dark. But for a drow elf, because this is a race of elves that they live underground, that's their specialty. So whereas others can see maybe 60 feet around them in the dark, drow elves can see 120 feet. They practically can see like double the length of every other race.
They are dark vision.
Yeah. So, so that's what that is. Dark elves.
No. Let me test how much of a nerd I am. So, on the top of my head, the races that have dark vision for sure are half orcs, Aasimar, most elves. We already mentioned the drow. There's also, I believe, goblins have dark vision too.
I know. Yeah, it's like I know most races. Most races have some form of dark vision, which at this point is like, why is this even a feature if most people can do it? That's where I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Goblins have dark vision.
Alrighty. Okay, here's a unique trait for your drow elves: sunlight sensitivity. You have a disadvantage on attack rolls and on perception checks that rely on sight when you, the target of your attack, or whatever you're trying to perceive is in direct sunlight. So, again, because drow elves typically do well in the dark, that's where they're gonna thrive. And again, that's why I'm thinking if Dior is hunting, he's probably going to want to prefer hunting in a forest versus grasslands, because I'm thinking at least when you're in a forest that provides some kind of coverage. So it's like, okay, he may not always be in direct sunlight, so that can easily affect his rolls. Whereas if he's out in an open grassland where there's just sunlight all around him, that's going to affect his eyesight.
Yeah. So you heard it here first. Dior is a basement dweller.
No. But again, this makes sense because remember, he's coming from a noble family. He's practically lived in fucking ivory towers. So of course he stays in. Like usually
Marvel's trait break the game. No,
yeah.
Wendy Marvel's in a class of her own.
Yeah. Alrighty. So okay. Another thing that drow elves get, there are specific magic spells that the drow elves get. And the drow elf, you know the dancing lights cantrip. So, yeah, where we just did this whole thing about how normally rangers don't learn cantrips. Well, because he's a dark elf, guess what? He gets to learn it. He got one. So, all right, he's got a utility spell that works.
Probably one of the most fun spells in terms of roleplay, because this is pure. This can either be used for distraction or just entertainment. So, say if you're in a tavern and someone broke their leg while getting off stage or something, but they need to show something to the audience. So you could probably come up and say, I can help, and then you cast dancing lights.
Right. Okay. So then, meanwhile, when Dior hits level 3, which he has, he can cast Fairy Fire spell once with this trait and regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. So, oh, look at that! Another spell! And let alone Fairy Fire is an amazing spell to have. Like, I love, like, there's a character that I made that was actually, a multi-class. You have the ability, you can actually, you don't have to stick with one class if you don't want to. You can actually, like, you know, be like, I want a couple of levels in one class, but then I want a couple of levels in another. So you can do that too. I had a character that was basically a cross between a bard and a rogue, and Fairy Fire was like my go-to spell for that guy. So I was like, I love the Fairy Fire spell. And then when you reach 5th level, you can cast the Darkness spell. So it's like, okay, that's cool, you know, but we're not there yet. And then lastly, Dark Elves, Drow weapon training. You have proficiency with rapiers, short swords, and hand crossbows, but okay, that's fine. That's short and martial weapons. I was already proficient in them anyway because I'm a ranger, so yeah, that's fine by me. You know, and yeah.
One note about multiclassing is that the usual stipulation is to make sure that your stats are around 13 or above. Mm-hmm. They have to share the stats that the class specializes in. So, say you want to be a sorcerer fighter, but your charisma is 12. You need to make sure that when you're doing a level up, you spend one of your level up traits in raising your charisma so you can multi-class into sorcerer. So things like that.
All right. So that being said, now those are traits that you get specifically for playing as a drow elf. There are some other traits that you get just being an elf in general. And it's like, I nearly forgot about those. I should be ashamed because I love playing as elves. So, regardless of what type of elf you can be, your dexterity increases by 2. Oh, look at that. A dex score. A dex score of 18. Oh, look at that. And actually, I think
that's really good.
No, but I had no. What level. Yeah, but I think that actually affects my AC too. I think. And your initiative. Yeah, I think that did. Let me double check. Again, this is the kind of shit you got to keep track of. I did leather armor. Yes, it did. So just because he's an elf and he increased his dex, that already bumped his armor class from 14 to 15. So now, if somebody wants to hit him, they have to roll at least a 15. That's a high fucking roll. Okay, they talk about the age of elves. Elves live a long time. They talk about the alignment, whatever. I worry about that shit at the end. The size of the elves. Okay, that's fine. Your speed.
Most races are medium, but some are small.
Yeah, like usually your small races are like your gnomes, your dwarves, your hobbits, your halflings. That's what they are. They're hobbits.
But they're
hobbits. They're hobbits. That's what they are. They're hobbits.
Hobbitses are the best race.
Okay. Walking speed is 30. That's pretty average. Dark vision. We already explained dark vision, but I got superior dark vision, so that's cool. Keen senses.
Dark vision. Okay.
Keen senses. You have proficiency in the perception, which I already gave to Dior anyway. So you know what? Okay. Let me go back to the Ranger page. Because I was originally just going to be like, okay, that'll just be something he'll naturally have as a Ranger. But if he's getting that automatically just for being an elf, then okay, I might as well pick another skill. How about investigation? That sounds cool. Elves. Fey ancestry. So elves, in general, they get an advantage on saving throws against being charmed. So if someone tries to charm an elf, good luck. It's going to be very hard to charm an elf. Magic cannot put an elf to sleep. That's another benefit to this. So it's like, okay, yeah, you can try and you can put the rest of the party to sleep. You're not putting the elf to sleep. Don't even fucking try.
They don't believe in sleep.
Elves also get an ability known as trance. Basically, what a trance is that they don't necessarily sleep so much as they meditate. And basically, to get, everybody else needs like a full 8 hours of sleep to feel well rested. Elves just need to meditate for 4 hours a day, and they're considered well rested. Elves are really good to have as being like scouts or something, being like, okay, we need to keep watch at night while the rest of the party is sleeping. Put the elf in charge because they're only going to be out of commission for a short amount of time, and they're wide awake afterwards. So, that's a nice little advantage for the elves. Okay, languages. Yeah, it's like, okay, the first time we can actually talk about languages, because there's different languages. Elves, you can speak and read Common, which is that's just a language that everybody, regardless of what race you are, everybody's going to understand Common. And of course, there's going to be the Elvish language. So if there's any text, for example, they come across like a book or a sign or something that's specifically written in Elvish, well, he's an elf. He knows how to read it. There you go. And that takes care of the race stuff. So now, the last things we gotta worry about now is the character background. So, again,
time to build character.
Yeah, this is what's really gonna help build your character even further. So, the different backgrounds. I know I mentioned a couple, but the different backgrounds that are at least listed in the player's hand guide. You have your background. You can be an acolyte. You can be a charlatan. You can be a criminal, an entertainer, a folk hero, a guild artisan, a hermit, a noble, an outlander, a sage, a sailor, a soldier, or an urchin. Now, some of these also have different variants as well. So, say, for example, the guild artisan, you could be a guild artisan or you can be a merchant. The difference being is, the artisan is the one that's actually, you're actually, creating things, whether it's okay, you're creating weapons, you're creating items, you're creating clothes, whatever your trade is, you specifically are creating it. That is the artisan. The merchant is just the guy that is pushing the wares. So, again, take your pick on what do you want to do in that one. So specific.
Dark Meta Knight, interesting idea. They say, I saw a pretty cool DM that made the languages in his campaign real-life languages. Common was English, Aquatic People was Spanish, Draconic was Latin, Elven was French, etc.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Idea, but then the trick becomes, how much of this is cultural appropriation? Let alone
can you keep track of everything? Because that's
not to mention. There's a very fine line between a cultural appreciation and a cultural appropriation. Okay, my lips keep wanting to say cultural. Cultural. This is just a general writing tip. If you want to write something outside of your culture, make sure that you understand it well enough to talk about it freely, or better yet, get someone else who is a part of that culture involved in your writing, and basically have them spot check for you.
Okay. Alrighty. So, for Dior, I decided that he is going to be a noble. So, what does having a noble background get you? You gain 2 skill proficiencies, persuasion and history. So, add that to the list. So he's going to be very knowledgeable on history, and he's got a way with talking with people. Makes sense for a noble. Tool proficiency. 1 type of gaming set. I gotta see what. That's actually something I'm not very familiar with. Let me see. What are the? Oh, okay. So the gaming set. So I can choose dice, dragon chess, playing cards, 3 dragon ante. I don't know.
That I'm not familiar with.
I don't know, but you know what? I'm just gonna say. I'm going to say chess. Or dragon chess.
I was gonna say, like, give them bunions and kragans.
Yeah, dragon chess. So, okay. So, put it, yeah, so, yeah, he can play chess well. You know. Languages. 1 of your choice. So even though he already knows Common, he knows Elvish, I can give him I can have him be fluent in another language. Let me take a look. What do I want to give him? Let's see. Like, cause the standard languages, Common, again, as we said, it's just a language that everybody knows. There's Dwarvish, there's Elvish, there's Giant, there's Gnomish, there's Goblins, Halflings, Orcs, or I could pick something on a little bit more on the exotic end. So there's Abyssal, which is demon talk. There's Celestial, if I want to talk to gods. Deep speech, which I don't know what that is.
I'm pretty sure that's, well, yeah, underwater.
Oh, okay.
It's either underwater or, Cthulhu talk.
Okay, because it says the typical speechers, Jordan, are mind flayers and beholders.
Yeah.
Okay. Draconic, so talk to dragons. Infernal, again, you want to talk to devils, because there's a difference between demons and devils in D&D, apparently.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like, another stupid thing that they did, to me personally, is they made unicorns celestials when they're clearly fairies.
Yeah, I don't get it. Okay, yeah. There's primordial. I'm not sure what exactly that is.
Primordial deals with the 4 elemental planes, so fire, water, etc.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, Sylvan. That is the language of the fairies. And then there's Undercommon, which looks like it's Underdark. Which, you know what, that actually makes sense for Dior because I'm making him a goddamn dark elf. So it
would make sense for him to speak Undercommon.
Yeah, why wouldn't he know Undercommon? Okay? And then adding on to the equipment, along with that, he would also carry a set of fine clothes, a signet ring, a scroll of pedigree, and he automatically comes with 25 gold pieces. So I was like, okay.
Wait, only 25 for a noble?
A purse containing 25 GP? That's what it says.
I don't know. I think a noble would look at that and scoff.
At
least be 2,500.
I know. Well, it's like, well, to be fair, from what I'm seeing, a lot of these backgrounds, usually it's like 10 to 15 gold is usually what they start with. So a noble starting with 20, that's basic 25. That basically means they're going to start with the most gold. Like, and that's just starting gold. They start with the most. Okay. There is yet another feature, and that is position of privilege. It's like interesting wording there, but thanks to your noble birth, people are inclined to think the best of you. You are welcome in high society, and people assume you have the right to be wherever you are. The common folk make every effort to accommodate you and avoid your displeasure, and other people of high birth treat you as a member of the same social sphere. You can secure an audience with a local noble if you need to. So, again, different backgrounds, can, get you different things. So it's like, okay, like Dior, because he's a noble, it's like, oh, you need to go talk to such and such, but he won't give you an audience? Let me talk to him. I'll get you the audience with this guy. He can't afford to do that because he's in that same level of power.
Those were my shoulders.
Don't you okay? You okay?
Yeah, I just popped them.
Oof.
I've been sitting weird for a bit.
Oof. Alrighty.
Yeah, which is weird because it felt comfy at the time.
Okay. So now, pretty much at this point, at this point now, it's just, okay, the sheet's practically done. So at this point now, it's, okay, what do you have left for your character? Personality traits, ideals, your bonds, your flaws. The very last page is usually your character specifics. So age, height, weight, gender, eye color, hair color, skin color, organizations they belong to, who are their allies. There's a box even for their backstory. There's a box for appearance. So for you artists out there, you can actually link a picture onto the Google Doc and be like, yep, this is what my character looks like. So you can do that. Again, this is usually the very last thing that I worry about. I usually focus on, okay, let me get all this nitty gritty shit first. So now that I've seen what I've got because of the class, because of the background, because of the race. Now that I've gotten all of that information, now I can build a backstory and actually build the character around that. That's personally how I like to approach this. Perhaps maybe you might have an idea of what character you already like to play. So it's like, if that's, you're free to approach this however you want. This, like I said, this is just how I like to approach it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That is how you create a character in Dungeons and Dragons. It's like,
now go into those dungeons and probably don't slay any dragons because some of them can be pretty high leveled, like ancient red dragons. Yikes.
Yeah. So basically, like I said, I was bored. I just wanted to show this off. And I do intend on bringing Dungeons and Dragons onto the channel in the future. And that's why I just figured, if any of you had any interest, but you don't know where to start, or maybe you were a little intimidated by looking at the sheet, hopefully I gave you a basic idea on how to work a character sheet. All else fails, there's plenty of other Dungeons and Dragons channels here on YouTube. Like, I know I mentioned Tulak the Barbarian. He's a great source for inspiration. Like, you want to make a character that's loosely based off of, like, another character you may like. Like, let's just say, for example, you like Deadpool. You want to make a character like Deadpool. Well, guess what? Tulak has made a character build for Deadpool. Go check out how, go check out, how did he interpret to make a character like Deadpool? And, you can stick with that build or you can base off of it. So Tulak the Barbarian is a great one. A very beginner-friendly one is a group known as XP to level 3. They are very beginner-friendly. They do videos. They have a series of videos that really break down classes, races, all that other stuff, and really break down and make it easy to explain for people just getting into the game. So you want to get into the game, but you don't really know where to start, or you don't know what class you want to be or something. XP to level 3 is a good one to start with. The Dungeon Dudes is another one that I would actually suggest, probably more so for subclasses, because one of the coolest things I think they do is they actually break down the subclasses, but they actually rank them, like from their own purpose, their own experiences. They rank them from, like, S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and they've been doing that with all the subclasses. And that's actually pretty informative, because it's like, I was just like, okay, for example, I don't know shit about wizards. What subclasses of wizards are considered good? they did. It's like, okay, we'll break down from their, we'll break down from our experience what we think are good subclasses for wizards and which ones are not. So that's another one. There's there's other ones, like I know Runesmith, Davy Chappie, those are some other big ones.
Actually, Critical Role, they have a series called Hamburger Helper that not only makes really condensed quick builds for different classes, but also they go over what the different races do, and they even have some material for DMs, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, so Critical Role is always a good one to take a look at. If perhaps you're not really interested in maybe playing the game, but you want to hear some interesting stories that have happened to other people, Crit Crab.
Yeah, Crit Crab.
Crit Crab is great.
Yeah, assuming he's not talking about D&D horror stories.
Oh, he's done plenty of those too.
But not like we're not saying, when we're saying horror stories, we're not talking about, oh, that was scary, but more like, oh no, this actually happened?
Yeah, like disgusting player behavior.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. So it's like, you want to hear some interesting stories that others have shared online of what's happened in some of their games, and they share it with him, and he narrates and then provides his own commentary in there. So Crit Crab is always fun. If you want, I would suggest watching these maybe when you have a little bit more knowledge behind the game. But if you want something really funny to watch, Joe Cat's Guide to Dungeons and Dragons is so goddamn funny. But
You're welcome.
Yeah, but you do have to approach that like you're watching it because you already have some knowledge behind the game and you have knowledge behind the classes. Because literally, he just does a series, he's just kind of, roasting everybody. We just talked about Fireball for Wizards. That was practically, such a good chunk of his Wizard video is, okay, spells, you can do all this, but you know what? No, fuck you, you're using Fireball. That's all you need. Fireball. You don't need anything else. Put everything else away. Just use fucking Fireball. The right answer is... the right answer is Fireball. So it's Joe Cat is absolutely hysterical to watch. But that, again, watch him if you've got a little bit more knowledge behind the game. Otherwise, you might be a little bit lost.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm trying to think, Jordan, are there other D&D channels that maybe you watch?
You pretty much covered most of them, actually.
Yeah. It's I know I hit a lot of the big ones.
Yeah, you pretty much covered most of them. I was trying to think of something, and I'm like, no, you got all of them.
Right, and even so, there's still so many more that are out there that I'm probably not even aware of. So but yeah.
Yeah. Wait. I know someone, Dingo Doodles. She actually hand draws animatics of a D&D campaign that she's a player of, but it's a campaign known as Fool's Gold, and she's the person who talked about the I accidentally TPK'd my whole campaign by summoning a Tarask.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brian says it right there.
Alrighty. Okay, but yeah, hopefully you guys liked this and satiated by boredom a little bit there. As I said, I am going to bring D&D onto this channel. As for my long-term campaign, I've already promised it's going to be after Jordan finishes his campaign, The Abode. That's a campaign that we've been handling for over a year, and I have no idea where we are in that campaign. But I know right now we're on a little bit of a hiatus right now because it's
currently I'm having you guys take care of the final Wayfinder gem as well as taking down some of the BBEGs.
Yeah, so I mean, we've made a lot of progress in that campaign, and right now it is on hiatus. If you're at all interested in watching that campaign, and mind you, because that is the very first D&D thing I've ever done. So if you want to see me act like a frustrated fucking noob, you can act.
If you want to see me fumble around like an idiot who didn't be a player first and just went headlong into a campaign, watch us there.
Yeah, so like so we were actually playing that on Jordan's Twitch page. So Jordan, do you want to plug your Twitch page?
Yeah, sure. I haven't been able to stream much, but my Twitch page is Haywire Jordan. So same thing as my archive channel here on YouTube. But oh wait, hang on. I bungled up the link. But yeah, Haywire Jordan. It's spelled exactly as you think it sounds. Yeah, Brian is also in it. He is our samurai, Riona.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian is our samurai. I am the cleric, and then we've got a human barbarian. We have got a Warforged necromancer. A Warforged, in other words, is a robot. We have a robot that
plays a robot in D&D. He is Iron Man.
Yeah, we have a robot that raises the dead in our party. Master TP, who has shown up in a couple of our streams, he's actually a Fey sorceress. And we also have our one multi-class character, like our, so the race
rogue, artificer, paladin.
Yeah, a little bit of a rogue, a little bit of an artificer, and a little bit of paladin, and that is Baku, and his race is known as a Kenku. Basically, he's a walking crow.
Yeah, aka Boonslayer.
Yeah.
Yes, that Boonslayer.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much, that has been our party, and it's a blast. I miss the abode. I know we've been on hiatus, because I know, Jordan, I know you were having, like, frustrations. You were suffering from burnout a little bit, which I totally understand, but I miss the abode.
I miss it too, and I think once I play more games, I'll feel more comfortable to go back to it, but I committed most of what you guys are going to do to memory, so don't worry.
All right, cool. Yeah, like I said, if you want to watch at least, what a D&D session with us is like, you can, for right now, anyway, you can check that out on Jordan's Twitch page. Just bear in mind, you will see me fumble and get frustrated a lot, especially in the beginning, because I was just learning the game and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah. You can find the archives on, my YouTube page, actually. There's a playlist, detailing the game so far. It's up to 17 episodes, actually, but they usually run for about 5 to 3 hours.
Okay. Nice. But, so there is that campaign. As I mentioned before, I am currently trying to make a little mini campaign. And by that, I mean, this is going to take like 5 sessions and that's it. It's done. So it's going to be very short. It's not going to be something that I'm going to have these guys commit for years or something. Like, this is going to be, probably like a little bit over a month, and this campaign will be done. And that is the one that is going to be loosely based off of the Knights series. So heavily inspired by like Knights into Dreams, Knights Journey of Dreams, similar concepts with like, Nightmares and Dreams. The Idia will make an appearance in it. Certain characters will show up, so make no mistake, Knights is going to be in this, Riala is going to be in this, Wise Man is going to be in this, of course. But I am putting I am also deviating a little bit from, what you would typically find in those games, because I'm trying to think, how can I make this appropriate for a D&D campaign? And the ideas that I came up with, I think I can make this work and make it, interesting for a D&D campaign. And I can tell you right now, we've got 5 people that are going to be doing this, so I am going to be the Dungeon Master for that. Jordan is going to be playing in this. Brian is going to be playing. Master TP is going to be in this. We're also going to be getting Brandon and Ryan into this. Like, we actually got them, like, their own, like Jordan and I, we actually bought those 2 specifically. We bought them their player's guides and their dice. So that's actually going to be their first Dungeons and Dragons campaign, is going to be this Knights one. I don't know when it's going to start. I'd like to maybe get that started in April, but I'm still waiting on your guys' character sheets.
I know you guys. I know you gave us a deadline for our character sheets.
Yeah, but
now that I know who what I'm gonna play, I have a basis to go off of. So yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, so I got to get on, like, because I know you're working on yours. I know TP's working on his. Brian might be working on his. I don't know. And I have not had an opportunity to talk to Brian or Brandon yet about it. But it's like, the sooner I can get your guys' character sheets, the sooner I can get to planning the first session, and the sooner we can get this started. So do expect that to be coming relatively soon. And then right. And then, as I said, once Jordan is done with the abode, that's when I'm going to actually start my long-term campaign. So you know how, like, it's been taking us over a year, on and off with breaks to go through the abode. I'm doing a long-term D&D campaign, and I'd like to share that with you guys here as well. Like, but I'm not going to make that big of a commitment until I am done with Jordan's big commitment. I'm going to fit. I'm going to
art for her campaign.
Yes, I actually commissioned Jordan to make a lot of art. I think
it's 12, right?
14.
No, 14. Yeah, wow.
I commissioned 14 pieces of art from you, and make no mistake, I will be commissioning more from you when we get closer and closer to that campaign. There will be more that I will commission from you. So trust me.
Okay.
All right. But that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. As usual, Saturday, we will be continuing with Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I know Ryan has said that he's kind of taking a break from streaming right now because there's been a lot of stuff going on his end, which is cool. Like I said, this was just something I just did on the spot because I was bored. So who knows? If there's anything else that maybe you guys would like me to stream, whether it's more D&D related stuff like this to maybe try and help explain and answer more questions, or I can find some like smaller shit to do throughout the week or something, I'll figure something out. All right. But with that said, I hope you all have a good evening. Let me put a stream end there. Yeah, hi Cloud, haven't seen you in a while, but yeah, hope you all had fun, and I'll see you guys